Alright guys, welcome back to another overlay update video. Yeah, we're still in the beta phase, promo phase. Overlay is free until the end of this month, so I'm hoping that you guys pick up a copy and are playing around with it, and hopefully you'll like it. Yeah, in the meantime, I've been working on some new updates to improve certain aspects. I've been also listening to some of you guys' feedback in the Discord about some of the things that were lacking or stuff like that. So yeah, I wanna make a quick video. It's gonna be probably like kind of scuffed because I'm kind of doing this improvised. I want to get this out as fast as I can, just so you guys still have at least 2 weeks to test some of the new features. Yeah, so I'll try to keep it as short as I can. Hopefully go through it quite fast, and then yeah, go and check it out, pick up the update, and then hopefully you'll be impressed. I'm very excited about this. I'm very very interested to see what you guys think about it. What I've been cooking up the last few 2-3 weeks since I started the beta phase. Right, so let's dive right into it, I guess. Let's see. First off, let me just kind of go over for some of you guys that maybe missed it. If you're not familiar with the overlay, I recommend you watch this first video here, the overlay 2.0 update, because there I go over like all basically the entire overlay indicator from start to finish. It's quite long, but yeah, it has timestamps and stuff, so watch that, go over it, and then after that watch this one. If you're already familiar with it, or you already have it on your charts and stuff, and you kind of like figured stuff out, then you can skip this and dive straight in with this one. Also, quick reminder, if you click on this video here, overlay 2.0 update announcements, or this one here, the sacred geometry one, you will find a link in the description. Let me just show you. Right, there's a link here in the description. If you click that, you end up here, which is the sacred geometry indicator. It's free for everybody. It's not behind the paywall anymore. You can just pick it up. You favorite it here down here, and then you can add it to your charts. But more importantly, there is a link hidden here to the Discord. Right? So if you click that, then you'll be invited to the Discord. And I can show you what that looks like as of right now. Right, so you can find that link in this one or in this one. Let's see. Discord, here it is. Let me just hide this again. So, right, so this is just a tiny screenshot of my Discord that I'm kind of slowly building out. It's slowly starting to take a bit of shape. Yeah, you have all the information here. It's just like my some notifications, my socials, all that kind of stuff. Let me change the color on this. And yeah, so there's information about the indicators, right, in here. How to get access once it's behind the paywall. The roadmap is basically all the things that I'm planning on doing on the future for all the indicators. A special channel for the overlay, which is this one, where you can see, like, I posted this a while back with everything that's coming in this update that I'm gonna cover right now. Yeah, we have some backtesting channel, quantizer channel for the oscillator, but yeah, that is kind of empty now because I'm gonna do all those updates later on. Tips and tricks, like stuff that I don't cover in the videos, I will cover here. And then also suggestion box channel thing for if you have any suggestions or whatever. And then we have some discussion channels here, just like for you guys to chat and whatever and talk about the meme and shits. Right, so just if you want more information, kind of want to keep up to date with everything that I'm doing, like I'll try and post this consistently as I can here, like all the updates that I'm working on and all the changes that are coming and etc, all that kind of stuff, right? So it's free to join, just come in, and for now there's no paywall to like enter here. You can just come in for free and just hang out and stuff. Yeah, so definitely do that if you're interested in my work. Right, so that's that. Right, so I think we can dive right into it then. So in terms of the settings, a few things have changed. Let me get out the tool again. There we go. Right, so this is pretty much all the same. There's a tiny change to this, which I will cover, because it now actually affects some opacity. That's like feedback from you guys. You had struggled with some opacity, so I just made some changes there. This is pretty much all the same. Nothing has changed. We're not going to cover anything of the rangefinder, this section here, because pretty much nothing has changed except for one tiny thing, which I will cover at the beginning, and that's it. Yeah, and then market structure is still the same. There's a slight change in the order, and wait, I fucked this up. This is not here anymore. It's yeah. So there was a second tick box next to SD Tech previously. That tick box is now here. I'll show you. But yeah, I made the screenshot before I made that last change, so that's why it's not here in the screenshot. And then yeah, what we're going to talk about mostly is everything, not about this, but about this section here, which is much expanded and improved SD blocks, SD Tech, and then also the alerts down here, right? So yeah, if you want to learn more about this stuff, watch the other video that I mentioned before, right? Just the basic overlay 2.0 release. This release will be 2.0.3, right? So make sure that if you want to follow along or stuff like that, you make sure you get this version, right? That's the latest one once this video is live. All right, so that pretty much covers the settings. We can get that out of the way and we can dive right in, right? So we're here on the charts. BTC, Binance, 12 hours. Let's go. All right, so I got it loaded up on the charts. You can see here, overlay version 2.03 beta, right? That's the one that you want. As I explained before, this tick box is no longer here. It's now here. And yeah, basically, what this used to do was it gave you these prediction things that tell you where the next market structure high or low is going to be and the mid-range of the rangefinder, right? That used to be a part of SD Tech with this little button here. That's now just in this option, market structure highs and lows, right? It tells you where all the highs and lows were that it finds, and then if you tick this, it gives you the unconfirmed ones. And SD lock and SD wick are automatically activated from the get-go. Now, I have some plans for like some changes that I'm gonna do with this. I'll explain later as to why. But yeah, I know some of you guys are already using this, so I didn't want to disable it in this version just because I don't want to like cut you guys off if you enjoy this feature. But yeah, it's in the future it's gonna like change a little bit. But yeah, anyway, so I moved it around. It's here now. In version like the previous version 2.0.2. There was an extra option here that I added, which was to deactivate the rangefinder SD blocks, right? So if we activate the rangefinder, this is the only change basically to the rangefinder. It used to have blocks with the where the higher high came in and the lower low came in, right? And then you could disable that here. So that feature is now here. So in the SD blocks, if you activate the SD blocks, you can see them here. If you then choose rangefinder mode, right, or RF mode, it will bring back that feature, right? So you can have either or. You cannot have them both at the same time anymore. Right. And we'll put this back to normal, just 1x. Yeah, another change. So that's basically the rangefinder change if you are on version 2.0.2. And then also, because of that, I also removed the bar color things. Like, yeah, the rangefinder used to have whatever SD block it had. It used to like bar color them like in a certain color to kind of highlight them. And I really liked the aesthetics of it, but that was just the aesthetics, right? It didn't really do anything else. That option is now removed because I'm planning on doing some other cool stuff with bar colors, and yeah, it warrants to save that resource for something that's actually useful other than just aesthetic looks, right? So that will come back in the future in some way or another, but it's probably gonna look like a bit different and so on, right? So yeah, that's for now in this build, it's deactivated. It's not a big deal. It was just a visual kind of aspect kind of thing. Right, so that's it. That's everything that changed for the rangefinder. The rest is just all the same. So we can move on from that. Just in a general sense, I also updated some of the information tooltips, so make sure to read those. There's like a little bit more information there on certain things. Not everything, but like certain things have a bit more information to them. Yeah, so make sure to read those if you're not aware that like there's information hidden there. And each of these information toolboxy things, they always correspond to the row that it's on, right? So this one is not displaying anything over here. This one is only relevant to this row of options here, and this one only relevant to this option here, and so on. I hope that makes sense. Right, what else? So yeah, this all still works the same. And yeah, so we get to the good part. Overlay supply and demand, SD. Here are the big changes basically that's coming in this update, and yeah, I'm really excited about it. To see what you guys think. I'm really liking it so far. Let's see. So some feedback that I got was that the blocks can be a little bit faint. Let me just make them a bit longer so they're a bit easier to see. Right, so they're a little bit faint in some cases, and some of you guys were like struggling a bit with the opacity, so I added an opacity option. The basic standard opacity that I have is 5%. So now you can add either +5 or +10. So if you add +10, then they will increase in brightness, like quite a bit. So it should be easier for you guys to see, right? I'll just leave them at 5 for now, so it's also a bit easier on the video, I guess. Yes, let's put this back on 1. Also, I think I did this. Let me check this for a sec. I think the market structure break blocks also are affected by this. Yeah, they are. So I adjusted the, so when you change this, it adjusts the opacity not just for these SD blocks, but also the SD blocks that are used anywhere else, just to kind of keep a consistent gradient between the different elements, right? So because I kind of like, spent a lot of time in curating the aesthetics of it, so everything kind of looks nice and balanced. And then yeah, if you change the opacity of the blocks, then all the blocks will change accordingly, so the ratio stays the same. Right, so that's it. We can leave the highs and lows. That's actually quite useful. We don't need the unconfirmed ones. Right, so those are the changes to basically just the SD blocks themselves, right? You have a little information box here, supply and demand, block settings, and then a little description, highlights supply and demand levels and detects market structure. Setting 1, the SD block mode or length, right? There's gonna be a new mode in the future. I have some plans for like some other cool stuff that I'm gonna do with this. But yeah, you have the rangefinder mode, which I showed earlier, which is, just related to the rangefinder. And then heat map, that's when you extend them all to infinity, basically, right? And then you can either have them at the regular standard length, which is the length of the market structure lines, basically. And then if you want them longer, then you can extend them by multiplying it by a certain number, right? What else? Yeah, so there's just some explanation about the different modes at the bottom, and then setting 2 is the opacity. That's it. Right. So those are SD blocks. Those are the changes, and now we actually get to the good stuff, which is SD tech. So this was previously like combined into one row of options, basically. I've now separated them into 2. And these are your swing failure patterns and your deviations and that kind of stuff, right? Remember let me see if I can show you. Can I? This is kind of dark. Well, anyway, I'll just type it out on the chart. It's probably easier, right? So if you remember from the previous video, let me pull out the text thing. You had the signals pretty much looked like this, right? And then it had like an arrow kind of thing like this, right? So they used to look like this pretty much. And basically what it was telling you is this here, the little arrow meant if there was like an engulfing characteristic to it. Then you had, wait, let me just put this here, because you had two variants, SFP and deviation, right? So you had your little arrow for the engulfing characteristic, then you had your SFP or your deviation, either one of these two, and then you had 3 stars indicating if 1 star was like a local SFP or deviation of an SD high or low, and then level 2 was if it was related to a lower high or a higher low, and then level 3, which is like the most important one, was like if it's related to a higher high or a lower low like this, right? So that's pretty much how they were characterized. And then just to kind of quickly make the distinction, SFP and deviation. So an SFP is basically you have a high that comes in here, right? That high gets swung with a wick, but the close closes below, and that's a swing failure pattern, right? You have, anyway, I've gone over this in the previous video. If you want more detail about it, you can go and watch that. There's timestamps there, so you can probably find it quite fast. And then the deviation is basically, let me see, where's the other one? I can find one somewhere. Where is it? Where can we find deviation? Yeah, deviation would be something like this. Right? There we go. So we have the high that comes in here, right? Ah, fuck, no, this is also an SFP. Fuck me. This one. This one here. Right, so we have a high that comes in here. And then instead of it being a wick that goes above it like this and then closes below, it's actually one candle that closes above, and then the next one right after it closes below again, right? So that's a deviation with the candles, not with just the wick. I hope that makes sense, right? So those were basically the distinctions that it made previously. Right. So I gotta give a shout out to Roman again for giving me for reminding me that let's dive into it. The signal is not necessarily important by itself. It's what's important is the result that the signal provides, right? A signal is just a signal, but if it actually produces a result, then it's a much more useful signal in a way, right? So the problem I had with the previous version that I just covered is that, yes, knowing that there's an engulfing characteristic is cool and all, but there can be an engulfing candle anywhere, and if the engulfing candle doesn't actually like reclaim any sort of level, then it's kind of like not super important, right? So as you can see, the signals now look quite different. And let me just kind of go over what they mean now. Before I do that, let's check the info box. So it says SFP and deviation settings, right? It also is S and D, if you the initials, SFP and deviation, right? SD. Displays swing failure and RSI divergence signals based on SD block technology. Right, so it takes these blocks and then applies logic to it to detect swing failures, and also this is one of the key features of this new version, is that there is now an RSI oscillator integrated behind the scenes under the hood of the overlay. So it can now track RSI divergence based on market structure, which is just extremely cool, and I'll show you. Yeah, setting 1 is the SD tech mode, and then setting 2 is the SD tech signal size. And there's one little note. This is a change from the previous version to now, is that the SD tech signals, they do not work in a multi-time frame mode anymore, because it's using the RSI, which is an oscillator. If you now turn on multi-time frame mode, the signals will not these signals here will not work. These will still work the same, but these SD tech, they won't, because it can't function in multi-time frame with the RSI oscillator, right? Yeah, so that's why. But it's kind of like a minor thing. If you want the signals on a certain time frame, it's just go to that time frame and then, you know, apply them there. And if you need to just run 2 overlays, you know, in one with the multi-time frame on and the other just with the normal, not with multi-time frame mode on, just run the signals there. And then you can have both at the same time, basically. Yeah. So this is the mode, but this is just a placeholder. This is something that I'm working towards in the future, which I'll kind of cover at the end, kind of tease you guys what I'm up to for like future updates. But I'll leave that at the end. But yeah, you're at some point in the future, you're basically gonna have indicator mode, which is what you're seeing now, which is just like normal mode, and then strategy mode, which is basically, I'm gonna try my best to make this into an actual functioning trading strategy, right? That you can just turn this mode on, and you know, certain things will change and whatever, but it will basically tell you when to enter the trade, when to exit the trade, you know, where to put your stop, so on and so on and so on. Yeah, so that's basically, but it's, as it says, under development, right? So this is not working, so you can just kind of like ignore this setting for now. That will start to be activated in the future when I get this actually working. And then size is just the signal size. You can just, if the signals are a little bit too small for you and it's like a little bit hard to see, then you can give them +1 size and it will just scale them up and they will look a little bit bigger. And I'll leave them on like this for the video, so it's a bit easier for you guys to see, hopefully. Right, so what are we looking at? Basically, it still works the same. Let me put this color here. Right, so what we have now is the following. So it does not no longer, the signal, like the distinction is still the same, right? So the SFP and dev that we had previously, the deviations, they're still there. You just, the signal itself, when it's displayed on the chart, doesn't make the distinction for you anymore. Because it's kind of the same signal. It doesn't really matter, right? The concept is still the same. It's a swing of a high or a low that fails and falls back below that level. That's pretty much all it is, right? So it no longer makes the distinction. So that's kind of just, you don't see that anymore, right? And in terms of the little arrow thingies, those have changed. So now you have 2 types. Obviously for the low, it's inverted, right? So you have the hollow ones and the, let me do it like this. There we go, right? So you have the hollow ones. What does the hollow one mean? So the hollow means is that you had a swing failure pattern. So you had one of these swings, either an SFP or a dev, doesn't matter, any of the two, that did not reclaim any SD levels. Right? So what do I mean by that? If you look here, let me give this a little arrow. There you go. Right, so we have this little hollow arrow thingy here, right? And you can see that it's swinging this this low, right? Actually, scrap that. It's, fuck me. Come on, go away. Let's take the other one. Let's take this one actually, right? So let's focus on this little hollow arrow here. What does it do? So it's swinging this low, right? You can see the line running here. And this is the SD block here that locks in when that happens, right? And remember that the SD blocks, they have 2 confirmation bars. So this is the low. This is confirmation bar 1, confirmation bar 2. So the signal locks in on this bar here. Right? This is the bar where this signal appears. And as you can see, this bar here is not higher than the top of this SD block here, right? The previous one. So since it didn't reclaim this as this previous SD block, it's hollow, right? It didn't achieve anything, right? So a low gets created here and a low gets created here, but none of these, because they're hollow, none of these have actually reclaimed the level. I'll cover what this means, the tick mark and the X, what they mean. I'll cover that a little bit later. Let's just stay focused on the arrows for now, right? So actually the other ones, right, is the same, but this one actually they're like reclaims a SD level. Right, so let's take a look at, let's say, this one, right? We have a solid triangle arrow thingy here, right? This is the high that it swings. You can see the line running through, right? That's this SD block here. Right? This is the candle that sets the high. Confirmation bar number 1, confirmation bar number 2. This is the one that locks the signal. And this bar actually closes below that previous SD high level there, right? That's why it's filled. That's why it's a solid arrow, right? So that's the distinction basically that it makes now. So it's basically still engulfing in many aspects. It's just that now it actually tracks if the engulfing candle actually has a result of some kind, right? And this is important because, as you can see, like I'll give some more examples later on. For example, right, you get a swing here, but it's telling you that it didn't really achieve anything. And what does price do afterwards, right? It finds support in that previous block, right? Because it didn't reclaim it, because it's not solid, right? And then price just carries on, right? So it's telling you basically a story, as you will, as you follow these signals around now, as price goes. It's kind of telling you what price action is doing in a way. Right, so that's one. Right, so we have the arrows covered. Let's cover now the we have these as well. There we go. So this, as you probably suspect, this is, let me just increase this a bit because there's kind of small. There we go. Right. So we have an R with a hollow square and we have a R with a solid square. The R stands for RSI, as some of you probably already guessed. Divergence, if you will. And then this one too, of course. Both stand for RSI divergence. What's the difference? The difference is this is an RSI divergence of a previous SD high or low, right? Depending on if it's above or below the candle. And then this one is an RSI divergence of the last higher high or lower low, right? Okay, there you go. Yes. And so I'll put this here. There we go. So what does it mean? We have a high. We have a slightly higher high. And what this R is telling you is that there's divergence between these 2 points, because the oscillator, and I'll quickly show you by revealing, by putting on the, I didn't have it on, where's it, the quantizer, there we go. Let's give it a sec to load. There it is. Let's give it a bright white. Increase the thickness, there we go. And put this on backtest and turn on the signals. There we go. So just ignore the gray one that's in the background. It doesn't really matter. That's the momentum one. We're focusing on the bright, the white one, right? For some reason, it's not detecting it here. What's happening? Huh. What is it? 0? Hold on. What am I missing here? Fuck, man, I hate these options now. This is so antiquated. 20 visit managers and 90 and 10. That was 30 then. Alright, fuck it. It doesn't work. I don't know. I don't even remember how I did this. Anyway. Let's not waste more time. Right, so there's divergence between these points, right? We can see there's RSI is going lower and higher highs is higher, right? So lower low, or lower high, sorry, on the RSI, higher high on price action, right? There's divergence there. I mean, at this point, I guess you guys should be familiar with that stuff, right? It's not too complicated. It's very common knowledge, I suppose, right? And as you can see, it is between this SD high and this SD high. That's why it's hollow, right? Remember, it's tracking divergence between previous. Let me just expand this so it's on one line. There we go. Between previous SD blocks, right? Man, I'm rusty today. Okay, and then we have a solid one here, right? And here as well, and there's a difference between the two. You can see that this one is bright and this one is not. I'll go over that in just a sec. So let's just take this one then, right? Because we have a faint one and then a faint one here as well. So what's happening here, right? So here, what it's telling you is that it's an RSI divergence between this point, this high, and the last higher high, which is this one here, right? What it's telling you is that there's divergence between these 2 points, not just this and this, right? Because there's divergence here as well. And as you can see, there's divergence here, but there's also divergence between this and this, right? Here and there, right? So it's tracking 2 types of divergence. Divergence between the local highs, and then diverges between whatever high gets created and the last detected higher high, which would be this one here, right? Obviously, for the lows, it's inverted, right? It's the same system, just inverted. Now, the reason that this particular one is like bright and highlighted is because this is like the ultimate version. If you're familiar with profits, this is like your, golden Pepe, royal Pepe, level 6. Like this is the really juicy one. Why are these highlighted? Well, these basically combine the best of both worlds. What's happening here? So we have a high that comes in that is a swing of the previous higher high. Right? This is the last higher high that came in at this point in time. Right? So this higher high that gets set here has a wick that's here. This wick level gets swung with a deviation because it's a candle that closes above and then closes below. And the second bar that confirms and locks this SD high actually closes back below this level. Right? So we have a deviation of this higher high. Right? Not only that, it's engulfing, right? Because it closes here, right? If we track this level here, it's also closing below the block of this higher high, right? It's closing below this block here, you can actually just draw a box so it's like easier to see, right? This is the block that gets, let me actually change the color to this so it's like the same. Right? We can see that when the SD block, this one locks in, it closes below the block level of the higher high, right? So it's not just this one, it's the same, but this one closes below this one. For this one to be bright, this candle would have had to close below this one here, right? Because at that point, this is the last higher high that came in, which is this block here. Let me just also put a boxy here so you can see it. Thank you for the box. There we go, right? So for this one to be bright, just like this one, this candle or this candle would have to have closed below this level here, basically, right? That's why these are bright. Those are like your max level type divergence. And what I can show you is the following. Let me just remove this. It's just to see like how powerful these are. Let's zoom out a bit. Right, the last, so this is the drawback limit. This is where it stops drawing. You can increase that manually. Watch the other video if you want to know how to do that. Yeah, so we get one here. Thank you for changing the color. There we go. Right, and let's just actually zoom in so you can see a bit better. Right, so we get one here. Again, SFP in this case, right? Because there's no candle close below, it's only a wick. So SFP is the previous lower low. And then this is the low, candle number 1, candle number 2 closes above this level here, which is the block of that lower low. So what that means is that we have a swing of the lower low that's engulfing, that also reclaims the previous lower low block level, right? There's RSI divergence between these 2 points, as you can see here, right? And hence it is a bright colored signal. Where does the next one come in? The next one doesn't come in until the exact pico top of this entire period, right? Higher high, high gets swung, there's divergence between these 2 points, right? And also the second candle that closes below the level of that block. If we zoom in, right, the level is here. Obviously this candle closes way below it, so hence it is bright, right? The next one comes in here at the next low, right? Swing of the lower low. There's divergence between these 2 points, right? And the candle closes above the block. We get a bright one. And then off it goes, and we're back where we started, right? The last one came in here. Now, as you can see, these are really powerful, but they're not perfect, right? For example, right, as we're looking at this one, there's still a new high that comes afterwards, right? And that's where the X comes in, right? So if one of these solid triangles locks in, so this one or any of these that's solid, right? This took me a hard time, like a long time to get right. I struggled quite a bit with this, but I'm fucking very happy with it. It's so cool. So we can actually just let it play in the replay tool so you can actually see what happens. Right, so we know that this high is going to come in. I'm just going to go bar by bar so you can like follow what's happening, right? So the moment this second candle closes, that's where your signal appears, right? On the replay, it triggers on the open of the next candle. That's why it like triggers there. Anyway, so what happens now is that the signal tells you that, hey, there is a, oh, give me the arrow, there you go. And so we have a reclaim of the previous higher high block, which is this here, and there's divergence between these 2 points. Right? And you're like, ah, cool. Let's say you take this trade, right? This is your entry, this is your stop, right? You expect price to go down from here, right? Because you basically already have 3 confluence signals, right? You have a sweep of a high, you have divergence between the points, and you have a level reclaim, right? That's 3 factors of confluence already, just in this one tiny signal, right? So let's see what happens next, right? So price moves. And let me also highlight this block here because it's important. And what you notice now is that there's an X, right? So what happened here? So what happened is the following. Let me change this to red, pink, whatever. After this signal appears, price comes back and trades above this block again, right? The low of this block here, this level, right? And then we have, let's see. Is it 1 or 2? Okay, let me check the code. It should be 2, I think. Sorry guys, because I'm really new to this, because like I really just want to get this out as fast as I can. So let's see. Reclaim. No, it's actually 2 bars. Yeah. I don't really see the detail right now, but it should be 2 bars. So as soon as there is 2 bars that close inside this block, basically, like above the lower end of this block, it will trigger the signal and tell you that it's invalidated. This is kind of just to give you a heads up, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that price is gonna like completely obliterate and just move higher, right? It can also mean that just price is gonna trade up into this block and then reject from there again, right? But it's giving you sort of a heads up, like, hey, it should have dumped more. It should have lost this level here, and it didn't, right? It rejected off of it, and it's now trading back inside this block that it initially reclaimed, right? This signal here, this triangle, is telling you that it claimed this block, right? And now we're trading back inside of it, right? So it's telling you, watch out, right? And then you can decide if you want to like cut the trade or not, or let it run, or whatever you want to do, right? And like I said, in the future, the idea is, hopefully I can get this to work, just make this a completely like automated trading strategy that will just tell you like cut the trade or not, right? Depending on certain factors, right? That's kind of like what the ultimate goal of this system is going to be. This is just kind of like a little teaser of what's to come, right? So if we then let it play, you see that indeed a new high gets created, right? So if you had the trade open, you would have been stopped out, right? In a way, the signal is still valid, right? Even though this one here gets invalidated, right? The next one is the one that actually produces the result, which also gives you another divergence and another reclaim of this local high again, right? So often what happens, as far as like I've been able to observe this now for like the last, 24 hours, 48 hours that I've had this like somewhat working more or less, is that usually when these appear, it's either like the actual top, or it's highly likely that the next one after it will be, right? So that's what the little X means. So they don't appear simultaneously with this signal, right? It appears afterwards when price action trades back inside the block that it initially reclaimed, right? That's kind of the idea behind it. I hope that all makes sense. I'm kind of like struggling to explain this because, like I said, I'm also kind of new to it. So you can kind of like see similar kind of results, right? We have a reclaim of a high, and as soon as this price action here happens, right, it's flipping that level that it initially claimed. I have to zoom in to actually be able to see this, right? Because there's basically 2 blocks. Let me just also extend the blocks a bit so it's a little bit easier to see. Right, so we have this little blocky that comes in here, which is indicated by this little arrow, right? It doesn't achieve anything because it's not coming below any sort of other level, right? But then the second comes in, which is this one here, right? And indeed, when the second candle, which is this one, locks, it's actually below this block here, right? So that's why it's engulfing, like a reclaim of the previous high, basically, right? But then as price action comes back above it at the second candle, which would be this one, that it trades above that this level here, right? It invalidates this one, right here, because we now have two candles that are trading above this level. So it gets invalidated. What does price action do? It literally goes, retests that level that's, you know, and then launches, right? So I hope you kind of like understand what this is doing, right? And then, yeah, you can see like it appears, you know, every once in a while, not all of them, but like, for example, this one doesn't have it, right? Because at no point in time, also you can see that because it's hollow, it didn't reclaim anything. So it's not even impossible to invalidate it because this didn't achieve anything. This is actually a very interesting case as well, right? Because you have a higher high, right? That high gets swung with like a giant candle, giant wick, right? And you have RSI divergence between these 2 points, right? But the cool thing is that this little triangle is telling you that even though there is RSI divergence between these points and it's from a higher high, so this is like a range high, whatever, it's not achieving anything. If we, just for fun, activate the rangefinder, which is going to extend this high here, right? You can actually see how price action never loses that reclaim of this range high, right? So that's what this hollow triangle is telling you. There's RSI divergence. Yes, you know, it's of a higher high, but it didn't achieve anything. There's no consequence to this action taken by the bears, right? And what does price do? It continues on, right? So that leads us to the hollow ones, right? What is the hollow ones and the tick? Well, I'm assuming that at this point you're kind of like, you know, guessing what this is going to mean. It's going to mean the opposite, right? So we get a hollow triangle, meaning that we have a new high here that didn't achieve anything, right? It didn't push below the previous high, which is here, right? So if we highlight this block again, right, it's here. When this high comes in, so this is the high, this is candle 1, candle 2, right? So this signal appears on this candle here, right? At that time, it didn't achieve anything. But as price moves on, eventually it meanders through this channel and then 1, 2 closes below, and then you get the confirmation tick that this move now, this high actually achieved something, right? So that's the inverse. So keep in mind that this tick doesn't appear until this candle locks, right? At which point it's already kind of irrelevant to a certain extent, right? Because yes, you lost this level, but now it's creating a new low, like a higher low here compared to this lower low. Also, this signal far superior than this lonely little empty triangle or this lowly empty triangle, right? These don't really mean that much. It's just telling you that, yeah, there is a high that locks in. There is a sweep related to it because these triangles only appear when there is a sweep of something, right? Otherwise, they don't appear. Because, for example, this SD block, you see it has no triangle here. There's nothing here, right? But because it's not sweeping anything, there's no level that's being like, you know, liquidity that's being taken or anything. Right, so these just kind of tell you a price action story, if you will, once you kind of like start following them, right? What else? I hope all that stuff makes sense. I'm showing highs, but obviously for the lows, it's just the inverted story of it, right? It's the same thing, just the inverse. Right, let's see, am I forgetting anything related to this? I hope those signals make sense. Yeah, so a neat feature that I added for those of you that kind of struggle to keep up with all the terms that I'm using and stuff. So if you take your mouse and you hover over one of these and you just kind of keep it still, it will actually tell you, right? it says SFP of a higher high, right? RSI divergence of a higher high. No SD high reclaim, right? So it's telling you what the signal means. If we go to this one, it says SFP of a local SD high and no SD high reclaim, right? So there's no reclaim and it's just an SFP of a local SD high. What does the local mean? This is actually new because this wasn't in the previous version when it was just saying SFP dev. These didn't exist yet because I added these in this version. This is basically an SFP of this SFD. It's like, so this high, this SD block that locks in here, that's candle 1, candle 2, so this one, right? The signal locks in here. It actually checks for some sort of swing failure of this high itself, not compared to the previous SD block, just the SD block itself. And as you can see, this candle that comes in creates a high. This creates a wick that's higher than this wick, but then actually closes below this wick again, right? So this is an SFP of this high here, of this candle that comes before the high, basically, right? Let me find another one. This is also another one, right? So the candle here, right? This is the high of the block, basically, right? Not the previous one. So it's not this one, like this one. It's just the actual candle that sets the high. The next candle that comes afterwards. So this is confirmation bar 1, confirmation bar 2, right? So confirmation bar 1, wick is higher than this wick, but the candle closes back below the wick, right? So it can now also detect SFPs of the block itself, not necessarily compared to a previous block, right? And the reason I added those, not because they're like, just because they're useful, it's because so that it allows the RSI to trigger as well, right? Because the RSI symbol only appears if there's a sweep of some sort. So if you happen to see an RSI divergence somewhere that is not present, let me actually show you. I think there's one on the 5 minutes from earlier today, right? So we're on the 5 minute now. And pay attention to this here. So it's kind of hard to see, but if we take this SD block and we extend it, there we go. It's very minor, but it's there, right? You can see on the oscillator, it actually detects the divergence here, right? So there is divergence between this point and this point here. It's tiny, but it's there, right? And as you can see, there's no sweep of anything, right? There's no sweep of this low itself. So this candle didn't do this, right? And this low also doesn't sweep this low here, right? So there's no sweep there. That's why the RSI symbol doesn't appear. But I have good news for you. I took that into account. There's an extra option down here, which if you have this on and you turn this on, then it shows additional RSI divergences. And what that does is it just, there you go, right? Now it's there, but there's no triangle with it, right? Because there's no sweep of anything. So the indicator can tell you, yo, there's RSI divergence. If you want to have those on, then just activate this option here and you'll see all the extra RSI divergences that are ignored if you have it off because there's no sweep involved, right? So I hope that makes sense. Right. But yeah, you can see it gets quite busy on the chart. I like to have it on the smaller size so it's not as obnoxious. But even though like it's pretty good. So one thing I did is instead of having the text kind of like displayed horizontally like I had previously, the text is now stacked vertically, the symbols, and that allows you to just only interfere with like one candle basically, right? So if you have like a bunch of price action, now the signal shouldn't be interfering with, if you have like something like SFP here written or whatever, and then you have the wick through it or a candle through it, and then it's kind of like, you know, becomes a bit clusterfucky and hard to distinguish what the signal is saying because you have a bunch of candles and wicks in the way and so on, right? And now everything is like stacked vertically, so you get like a nice, more clean, clearer view basically. Right. Another thing in terms of the tooltips, right? You can see if there's an X or a tick box like this, the the tooltip of the triangle basically gets overwritten, right? So now it just says SD high reclaim confirmed, right? It means that, you know, this SD high that came in at some point later, it dropped down below this level, and then it got confirmed that it actually managed to drop down below this level here, right? There's 2 closes below it, so the tick appears and price continues down, right? It's telling you that even though this was like a high that came in that initially didn't achieve anything, after some more price action, it actually did, right? So there's that. Yes, right, so here again, deviation of a higher low, reclaim of an SD low block, and there's RSI divergence of an SD low, right? So what is it telling you? It's telling you that it's sweeping this higher low, right? You can see that by the line that gets drawn. It's actually a deviation in this case because the candle closed below, candle closed above, right? It's not just the wick. And then it also reclaims this previous SD low, right? Because this candle and this candle are above that block here. Hence, it's solid, right? It actually achieved something. And then we have a transparent R, which means there's divergence between these 2 points, right? And you can tell that the indicator here down here is also picking it up, right? There's divergence here. And yeah, you can see what happens afterwards. So the X's and the ticks are just kind of like they kind of paint a narrative. They kind of keep you, you know, alert, if you will. Like, hey, you should maybe pay some attention, right? Because it definitely, you know, got quite low here, and it was in the potential of like not going back up, right? So even though eventually it actually did, right? It created a higher low and then continued downwards, right? Because yeah, this signal is a little bit stronger than this one. So, but yeah, it kind of gives you like a little heads up. So it's nice to get. Let's say you took this trade here, right? Let's say you entered this because you saw the evening star reversal pattern come in, right? And you're, and there's a sweep of this mini high here, right? Good enough. I'm gonna take trade. Stop is here. My entry is like, let's say here somewhere, right? Something like this, right? And you enter the trade, right? But at the time, it hasn't really achieved anything. Let me just show you so it's actually easier to see. Right. So at this point, nothing has been achieved because it's keeping track of this level here, right? That it's right now, right? And it's bouncing off. So you should be still kind of like worried, like, is this going to bounce and create another, you know, another high? And then if we let it play for a little bit, then you see that, hey, it gets confirmed, right? It actually took this low now, but then reclaims it again, right? But you can be a little bit more confident that, yeah, there was some power behind this move that actually managed to push it below. Let's see what the reclaim does, right? Yeah, and then as you can see, then eventually looks like it rejects this candle, right? The candle that pushed it down. Right, so I hope all that stuff makes sense. This is the 5 minute. Let's just take a look see on the 4 hour. I think the 4 hour is quite neat. Right, so we got a RSI divergence of the higher high. Initially, it doesn't actually achieve anything, but then as soon as it drops below this block here, it gives you a check mark like, yep, it actually managed to eventually reclaim this block high. It went below, and it gives you ample time to enter the trade here, say the short, and then, you know, take it down. After that, we get a new lower low compared to this higher low here. We get like a hollow triangle that does manage to push it down quite a bit. Right? One thing there is that these ticks and these check marks and stuff, the crosses as well, they need to appear before there's any sort of other SD high or SD low that comes in, right? So even though this continues to push down, because there is another low created here before the tick appears, that now disables the tick from appearing. It's not going to appear anymore because there's already a new low being made, basically, right? and for the X crosses, it's the same. If any sort of high or low gets detected, then it just invalidates the tick appearing altogether, right? So we get another hollow one here, which gets confirmed when it's above here, right? And just kind of like pushes price around. We interact with the range high again, reject, we get small RSI divergence, but no reclaim, right? We have a hollow triangle, hollow R, so that's small divergence, not with a higher high or a lower low in this case. It's hollow because it has, at the moment that the signal comes in, it hasn't yet reclaimed this block, right? It's right underneath it, but eventually it does reclaim it, which gives you the check mark, like, yep, we actually managed to reclaim the level, and off price goes again, right? And so on and so on. You can kind of get the idea, right? Right, so here again we have that beautiful kind of like divergence, higher high. Interesting that the oscillator doesn't pick this one up. Very interesting. Yeah, this thing is already better than the quantizer RSI by far. So one thing that I will mention is right now is that the quantizer is going to change in the future, because since the RSI is now integrated into the overlay, we don't need it here anymore, and it's also working much better. So what I'm going to do with the quantizer in the future, once I get to it, is I'm going to remove the RSI and I'm just going to leave the momentum oscillator. I'm going to make I have some ideas to improve the momentum oscillator as well. And have it focused on momentum and volume exclusively, right? Yeah, so yeah, we got a bunch of RSI divergences. Hollow, so not very powerful one, right? If it's solid, and it's bright, that's the most powerful you can possibly get. And those kind of create the big reactions, right? So as you can see, this is kind of like a weakish. Also, let's activate the rangefinder. That's kind of like a cool. And then we can also throw in the trend zones, for example, and the market structure breaks. And then we can like really fill it up with how you can confluence this stuff all together, right? So we get this kind of weakish signal because they're both hollow. And we have a little spiky of this trend zone here, right? Because it dips below the range just for one candle, right? The next one immediately reclaims it, but we're below the bearish market structure break, right? Because we have a lower low, higher low, higher low. We get break of the structure on this candle here, right? That makes this big pink or purple box appear, right? That's the market structure break level. So when this comes in, first of all, it needs to reclaim this, which it obviously does. Then it needs to reclaim this, which it also didn't initially because it's hollow, right? And then last but not least, fuck me. Come on. It also is underneath the market structure break, which makes it highly likely that it will be a bearish retest. Right? I'm gonna keep doing that, right? I'm sorry, guys. I'm kind of scuffed tonight. I'm tired. Yeah, right. So we get another one. No reclaim. It's hollow. We get a solid R this time because it's divergence between the lower low. But still no reclaim of any kind because it would have to close above this level here, right? Then the next one follows right after, which is, again, it overrides the divergence that's here because the divergence of the lower low continues, and it's like of a higher tier than the local tiny divergence, right? So it still fills it as a solid R because it's still diverging from the same place. This time we do get a reclaim because this bar reclaims this previous high that this one created, right? It reclaims this. But then as price meanders through and eventually falls back into that block, you get the invalidation cross, right? Let's say if you had a trade open here and this cross appears here and price action looks weak, it actually allows you to cut the trades quite confidently because it's not looking good, right? It looks very bearish. We're also in a bearish trend zone, right? You can see the purple swaths of color here, right? So yeah, it's kind of like indicating to you that that even though these RSI divergences are coming in, there's pretty much nothing being achieved, or very little, and it also immediately gets like very quickly invalidated as well. And then when this one comes in, which is initially doesn't actually achieve anything, and it's a tiny divergence, but it's, you know, been quite a while now. The RSI is super overextended. We get a local divergence. This signal locks on this candle here. And then immediately the next candle after reclaims and starts trading above this level, which tells you that it's confirmed, right? So this hollow triangle basically now acts as if it's a solid triangle thanks to the wick. That's how you can think about it, right? And then we can also see that price action maintains this level, right? It doesn't lose it again, right? So this wick is still valid. Right? And price moves off. Where does it go to? It rejects the market structure break again, right? There's a reclaim solid triangle that appears here, but it gets invalidated as soon as price keeps moving up. And then if we continue, then yeah, you see kind of like the same story again, but on the other side, right? So meantime, higher low, right? And yeah, it's indicating to you that it wants to move up, basically, right? It's grinding away at this level until it finally pushes through, and when it does, it just kind of launches. Right, so that's the recent Bitcoin price action. Video's getting way too long again. 1 hour already. Fucking hell. Let's see, am I forgetting anything? No. Experimental. Yeah, so SFP plus experimental mode is gone. It's no longer there. That wasn't the previous. It was just, as I said, experimental. I was just kind of like testing some stuff out, but yeah, that's now been replaced. Oh, great. I just deleted the whole thing. I want this arrow to be gone. Fuck, the label is fucking in the way. Go away. Can remove the text as well. Anything else? Anything else? Yeah, so the tooltips, I covered that. I also added tooltips to the market structure labels. As you can see here, it tells you there's a higher low, and it also tells you the close and the wick price, right? So that would be, give me some lines. So the close and the wick of the low, right? You can see here, 24.015, 41.884. You hover over that label, it will tell you those prices, right? 24.015, 41.884. Right? And this works on any label, right? So just a tiny quality of life thing, right? If you take this higher high, it says higher high, and then close and wick level. It's just, you know, fun stuff. What else? Right, so in terms of the color that, right, it says SD, right? So everything that SD blocks, SD text is all correlated to this color. These bright ones are hard-coded at 100%, and by default, this is on 50. If you throw this onto 100, everything will be bright, right? They all increase their brightness to 100%, right? So I don't recommend doing this because then you lose the kind of like visual reference that these are the important ones. So yeah, at default, I set it at 50. If you want it like a little bit higher because it's, you know, too hard to see or whatever, then you can play around with this and put it at the opacity that you like. But yeah, the important ones will always be 100%. So I recommend just kind of like giving the other ones a little bit less brightness so that you can distinguish between them. Tooltips, that's covered. Confirmation reclaim, that's it. Size, yes, covered that. Yeah, that's pretty much. Let's go over the alerts real quick. All right, so let's say we're on the 4 hour, you want alerts for these like cool things, then you can do the following. You say enable alerts. You select the alert that you want, and I'll explain what these colors mean in a sec. So rangefinder, RF, right? Rangefinder alert, new range. So whenever the rangefinder finds a new range, it will give you an alert like, hey, on the 4 hour, the rangefinder has found a new alert, or a new range. You get an alert on your phone or whatever. Rangefinder alert if it tags the mid-range. So if we turn on the rangefinder, there we go. So this is the mid-range in this section here, right? And as price moves up, then eventually when this candle happens and it interacts with that mid-range, then you will get an alert like, hey, price is at the mid-range. If you've seen the previous video, overlay tutorial video, then you know how important the mid-range is, right? And then the same here, right? If you have this price action here, and then price moves down, boom, interacts with the mid-range, you get the alert that, hey, price is interacting with the mid-range. So that's that. Market structure break blocks. So these are these blocks, right? The purple one, and there should be another one down here somewhere. It's probably not triggering now because it's like too far in the past. But yeah, so basically when this candle here breaks this low and this big box appears, that's when you get the alert for the market structure break. And then because this is a bearish market structure break, the text is below the box, so it's a bearish one. Let me increase to 2000 so you can actually see the other one too. There it is, right? This has the text on the top, right? So that's a bullish market structure break. So because it's a bearish market structure break, not only do you get the alert when the break happens, you also get the alert when it gets tested from the bottom, basically, right? When it's a bearish retest, then you also get an alert, right? If this level exists, let's say the price action is like over here now, and it's eventually drops down into this thing again, you don't get an alert, right? You only get the alert if it's a bearish one. And then the inverse for the other one. Where did it go? Did I fucking deactivate it again? God damn it. Man, the Ctrl-Z is really fucking biting me in the ass today. Come on. There we go. Right? So this is the level. First time it gets broken here. Right? And then every subsequent time that price moves above and comes back into it, that's a bullish retest, right? You get the alert retest of the market structure break, and then this one, and so on, right? They can only happen every 6 bars, so don't worry. That in this case, it's not like alert, 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 right? Price has to actually spend 6 bars without touching this level for it to be able to trigger, right? So it only triggers on the first one. And then after this period, it will trigger like this one probably again, right? Oop. Right, because there's at least somewhere here, there's like at least 6 bars that haven't interacted with it. Right, that basically counts for pretty much all the alerts, I think. Right, so then we have the trend zones, which is the things that you see in the background, the vertical lines, right? Same kind of thing. When you enter and when you exit, you get the alerts, but they can only happen once every 6 bars that haven't interacted in any sort of way. That's how they should work. I tested these quickly on the 5-second chart to kind of like try and make sure that they work properly. As far as I could tell, more or less they are working, but yeah, there might be some bugs. So if you find some bugs and it's like triggering something that shouldn't be triggering, just kind of like, if you're in the Discord, let me know. Make a screenshot of it or something, and so I can check out where it happened on the chart and then probably figure out like as to why it's not working, right? But yeah, make sure you have this one enabled as well. So enable chart, let's say you want this one, and this one, and then yeah, and then trend zones, we cover those, and then as the alert tag, right? So these are the little signal thingies that I just been ranting on for like an hour. You activate this one. This needs to be active too. Right, and then you can choose which ones you want, right? Do you want only the triangle alert thingies? Do you want the RSI alert thingies? Or do you want the confirmation and invalidation alerts, right? You can mix and match them however you want, or all of them at the same time, or maybe only the RSI ones, so on and so on, right? Just pick whatever you want. So just make sure that the alerts are enabled. There's a tiny little info box here that says SD tag alerts do not work in multi-time frame mode. So take that into account, right? If you're in multi-time frame, so if this option is on, and you're watching market structure that's from a higher time frame, the alerts will not trigger because like it doesn't work on that. So you have to have this off for these alerts to work. It's very important, right? Right. So once you set your alerts, the ones that you want, you go to your overlay indicator here at the end, is where it says more, add alert, You give it the condition, which is just the indicator. You make sure that this is on any alert function call. So don't choose any of the other stuff. Just leave it like on this, right? Set your expiration date and then give it a name. And, you know, say overlay, you know, RSI alerts or whatever you want to call it. Right? Boom, create. And then it's going to appear here in your list. Right, I'm testing some stuff here, but yeah, see, and then there it is, right? It says BTC on the 4 hour, and these are all the alerts that you have activated, right? And then you do this for every time frame that that you want to have the alert on, right? If you want them on the 12 hour and the 4 hour and the 1 hour, well, then you do this process on the 12 hour, then the 4 hour, and then the 1 hour, and then you get all the alerts on all those hours. All those time frames. Just keep in mind that, yeah, as you can see, these triangles, they appear quite often. So, you know, the lower the time frame you're going to go, the more the spam is going to increase, right? Because you're going to get quite a lot of them. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, check these out, see if they work properly, whatever. And yeah, that's about it in terms of alerts. Most of you guys should be familiar with how alerts work in TradingView at this point, I suppose. What else? Yeah, let me just quickly show you what the alerts look like. So these are the rangefinder. See, there you have those little icon thingies. So when you get the alerts on your phone, it will give you the color, so you can kind of like recognize it easier. The white ones, remember, you go here. See, the white ones are rangefinder alerts. The red and the green one are the bullish and the bearish market structure breaks. The orange ones are the trend zones, these things, the vertical lines. And then the pink ones are SD tech related alerts, right? So as you can see, this is what like rangefinder is, right? So new rangefinder RF, new rangefinder range on the 5 seconds, mid-range retest on the 5 seconds, right? And TradingView automatically tells you like what ticker it's on, right? Then if we go to, let's see, market structure break alerts, they look a little bit different, right? They have the different colors for if it's a bullish or a bearish, and it's distinguished if it's a market structure break or a retest of a market structure break, for example, right? Trend zone alerts, they are orange, right? Trend zone high, right? It initiates the trend zone high, and then 4 minutes later, it exits the trend zone high, and it also tells you how many bars it has spent inside that zone, right? So if you get something like 1 or 3 bars, right? Here you get like, I mean, the order of this is like, you know, because it's on the 5 seconds, it just goes absolutely crazy. But basically, if you get 1 bar, it's one of these, right? Right, it enters and exits immediately, right? And that can usually be like a good sign for like reversals. If they're fairly short, like this one, for example, is a beautiful entry, right? If you get the alert like, hey, it's entering the trend zone low, and then 3-4 bars later, it says it's exiting, right? Which also like confirms right as it happens, like there's no extra confirmation bars or anything, right? So on this candle here, on this, it tells you the alert, hey, we entered 4 bars ago and now we exited, and yeah, that's kind of like a good trigger to, you know, maybe look for a potential entry to chase this move, right? And then if it's like a big long kind of thing, it will actually count how many bars it spends inside that thing, and you will get like something crazy, like, you know, 49 bars or something, right? It tells you that it spent quite a bit of time in that zone, so it's like a big expansion that's happening, because those zones only appear when you're trading outside of the rangefinder ranges, right? And the last higher high is here. It's this level, stuck to the market structure break. Ever since it broke above that level, it's, you know, in the bullish trend. And then last but not least, the SFP alerts, right? They're the purple ones, and yeah, you'll have the little arrow. The text is a little bit different. I changed it since I took the screenshot, but I didn't bother to make a new screenshot. You kind of get the idea, right? You get the little triangle, whatever. You get the RSI if it's there or not. If there's no RSI, then you don't. Yeah, and then if you memorize what the hollow and the solid versions mean, which I explained at the beginning, then you kind of can tell from the alerts as to what's happening, right? If you get like a double solid, it's like stronger than if you get a double hollow alert, right? Yeah, so that's kind of like what the alerts look like. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers everything I wanted to say. 1 hour, 20 minutes. quite long, but yeah, man, I'm excited about this. I think it's very cool, man. It's really like getting to a point. Like I wanted to do this forever, and it's finally starting to like work how I wanted to. I think these alerts are very cool. Yeah, so a shout out to Roman for reminding me the importance of cause and effect, of actually having results after a signal in terms of level reclaims and stuff. That really just, reminded me of not just creating signals, also creating results, basically. And yeah, I can already kind of tell as to in the future what I'm going to do with this. I have a ton of ideas now that this is working. And I think it's going to be possible for me to actually create a full trading strategy based on these signals, where it will tell you your stop, your stop loss level, your entry level, your invalidation levels, your target levels, everything. And then once that is kind of like working as well, what I can probably do is like create like a box on the side or something with statistics that as soon as you say, SD tech, you put it into strategy mode. There's probably going to be different strategies in the future. And then when you select strategy 1, for example, then the whole statistic box here will appear on the side corner, and it will tell you like your strike rate, your average losses, your average profits, which is the target that's most likely to get hit, how many trades it detects in this period. Like, I can fucking go wild and just give you all the stats. And basically at that point you have an automated, back-tested strategy that as soon as you load it on any chart or any time frame, it will tell you if that strategy is profitable or not. Yeah, that's gonna be fucking wicked cool. So I'm super hyped. I'm so excited to keep building and get this to that stage, basically. Mainly for myself as well, because I have a partner and we're planning on starting a family and stuff, and I'm gonna have less time to spend on the charts, so it would be wicked cool for me to just have something that's just gives me the alerts like, hey, enter your trade now, put your stop here, and then when the target gets reached, like take profit here, so on and so on, and I don't have to like actually spend my whole day stalking the charts. That would be just cool. So I'm basically building this for myself, and then yeah, once I feel confident that it's like running properly, I will definitely give you guys the opportunity to use it as well. Yeah, so one word of advice to just kind of round it off. When that happens, it's likely that I'm gonna do something with the pricing of the indicator, because at that point, if it reaches that stage, it basically means that I'm selling you a money printing machine, right? You're gonna have one or maybe more strategies that are proven to work, that you can load on any chart that you want, and will tell you if it on that chart and that time frame that you're on, that strategy is profitable or not. And hopefully most of them will be on any chart. And at that point, if you buy the indicator, you would basically, all the hard work is then already done for you. You don't even have to do much of back testing yourself, because everything will be just already done, automated, and ready to go. And at that point, I think the value of the indicator just rises exponentially, and I'm likely to increase the pricing or restructure the pricing in some way or another. But until that happens, the pricing is going to stay the same. So yeah, I highly recommend you guys to go here, overlay 2.0 update announcements, click the link in the description. Okay, guys. And you'll arrive here and then join the Discord, right? This link is going to stay here for the time being. Join the Discord, come hang out, and that way it's the easiest way for you to keep track of what I'm up to and what's happening and when the updates are rolling out and what the next update is going to bring, all that good stuff. Yeah, that pretty much covers it for today. So go there, pick up the overlay version 2.0.3. If it's not loading when you have it on your chart, just remove it and add it again. If it's still not loading, close TradingView, then reopen TradingView and then load it again, like it should be in your favorites if you have it added. It's gonna be free until the end of this month. So you still have a little bit over 2 weeks to play around with it for free. Check it out, see if you like it, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So signing off. Have a nice day, night, wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next one.